Governor Cardoso has been putting Nigeria, or be helping to put Nigeria on the right course, on the correct course. But this is only the beginning. Nigeria will need to stay the course for at least another 10 to 15 years to transform its economy. So I don't know if you're agreeing with me or if you're disagreeing with me. If it does that, it will transform its economy and it will become an engine of growth in sub-Saharan Africa, and it will help to transform sub-Saharan Africa.
It's very obvious that they are not in agreement with him. Who would be? How could anyone wish Nigerians to endure this massive suffering into the 2030s when there are other ways that it could be done? It mustn't be the World Bank way. As a matter of fact, all countries that took the advice of the World Bank in the past, they have all failed. Not a single country survived. In contrast, look at all the countries that refuse to implement their policies. They are doing better for themselves. Look at Malaysia. Look at Indonesia. In fact, all the Southeast Asian countries, unlike in Latin America and South America, where they haven't recovered till today. So it proves that the World Bank policies do not work. They are meant to impoverish people. When countries can achieve economic growth and prosperity without, first of all, impoverishing their people, overtaxing them and devaluing their currency, it proves that it is meant to impoverish poor countries. And the worst part is that this senior vice president of the World Bank recognizes the fact that the current administration is not doing anything to create an enabling environment for businesses and private sector to thrive so that they can contribute to economic growth. Despite that, he still wants Nigerians to continue to endure high cost of petrol, high electricity tariff, high taxes, devalued naira. How does it work? He also says it with a bold face that the naira exchanging for about 1,700 naira to $1 is the best it has ever been, that it is competitive. Competitive against which currency? Against who? Is he aware that Nigeria's economy is import dependent? We are not productive. The little production we used to have about a year ago have virtually been wiped off because of the devaluation of the naira. And for any economy to be productive, there must be low exchange rate, because you don't expect all entrepreneurs who have ideas to also have capital. They need that cheap loans to be able to implement their ideas, to turn them into production. That is how it works. But in Nigeria, interest rate is above 30%. How can any business or a manufacturer survive after obtaining a loan only to repay with above 30%? That means he must make more than 45% as margin, because he can't be working for free. You see, all these financial institutions, they know what they are doing. Even this man, he cannot give this advice to his home country, to Prime Minister of India. He can't say it. India didn't start this way. They didn't start by devaluing their currency and overtaxing their citizens. They didn't start that way, but today they are rising. Their middle class is growing. They're achieving economic prosperity. But in Africa, when they come here, they tell you, no, you have to kill all sorts of productivity first. And magically and miraculously, they will rise again after 15 years. From saying it will not take more than 5 years or 6 years to 10 years, now they are talking about 15 years. Nobody should take these people seriously. There is a solution. It is proven from other countries' experiences that you can achieve economic prosperity if you have a plan. China did it. They had a long-term, short-term plan. All of them have materialized today, and they are homegrown without any input from any financial institution. So all this they are doing is just that people in control are their puppets. There's no other way to say it.
Were exactly what was needed, but they were not sustained. Today's fiscal, monetary and exchange rate reforms are hurting everyone, especially ordinary Nigerians who are struggling with high prices of food and transport. The government must do everything in its power to protect the most vulnerable citizens against hardships, because their lives and the lives of Nigeria's 110 million children depend on it. And it must stay the course of reform, because Nigeria's long-term future and the future of these 110 billion children, 110 million children depends on it.
Are we supposed to reinvent the wheel when other countries have done it? All we need to do is implement exactly what they did. China didn't start out by overtaxing their citizens. They didn't start out with high energy costs, high petrol price, high electricity tariff. They didn't start with all this. Rather, they made sure that everything was accessible. Even if they had to subsidize them, yes, there's no country in the world, even the United States, where they don't have any form of subsidy or not. They have agriculture subsidy, food subsidy, farming subsidy, everything. They subsidize many things to make sure that life is better and easier for their citizens. The more people continue to buy, the more the economy booms. The more people shop, go to grocery shops, the more people spend money, the more their economy booms. That's why it is called a credit economy. Even if you don't have money on you don't have any money in your account, but you have your credit card, you can continue shopping till your salary drops and you repay the loan. Is that available in Nigeria? No. In Nigeria, you're expected to pay cash for everything you want to buy. You want to buy a car, you pay cash. There's virtually no mortgage system. You want to buy a home, the same thing, you have to pay cash. If you go to the grocery store, you want to buy anything, you have to pay cash. And the worst part is that the banking system makes it very difficult for you to spend your own money. You go to the bank, you tell them you want to withdraw your own money, they will tell you no, they don't have cash. A bank. Some of them even limit the amount of money you can withdraw over the counter. In most cases, it's 20,000 or 25,000. You will say, okay, let me try the ATM machine. Maybe they truly don't have cash today. You go to the ATM machine in front of the bank and it is empty. Most of them are just for decoration. They never have cash. Now you have three options left. Either you pay with your ATM card where you are shopping, hoping that the network provider will be available so that the transaction will succeed. Or you use a bank app to transfer the money directly to the account of the merchant. This is also dependent on the network provider. If the transaction fails, you might lose that money forever. Yes, you go to your bank, they will tell you it's not their fault. You should consult the bank where you transfer the money to. You go there, they will tell you no, it's not their fault. They will be throwing you from here until you get frustrated and forget about the money. Another remaining option is where you have to go to a roadside POS operator to withdraw money, but you have to pay the operator before you withdraw your own money. So the system actively prevents people who have money from spending their own money. In an economy where they know, whether it's credit economy, capitalist, whatever it is, the more people spend money, the more economy booms. That's how it works. Now, before we hear the rest of the statement by the Senior Vice President of the World Bank, there is something the World Bank said in 2022 before the presidential election. They said that Nigeria was losing, as at the time, 10 trillion naira per annum because of petrol subsidy. Therefore, they advised the Nigerian government at the time to remove the petrol subsidy 100% so as to divert the 10 trillion naira to other areas where it will be beneficial to the Nigerian economy. What they failed to take into account was the fact that the government might save 10 trillion naira from the removal of petrol subsidy. But what about Nigerian people? What about Nigeria's economy? Look at the losses, massive losses that companies made last year alone, even up to this year. They continue to make losses. These losses might be more than 20 or 30 trillion naira. So who is losing?
The naira's real exchange rate is at its most competitive in at least 20 years. This is a great opportunity for the private sector. To protect the core and maintain competitiveness, the central bank must stay focused on inflation. It should resist the lure of short-term capital inflows that might push up the naira's value too quickly and crimp non-oil growth. It should rebuild foreign exchange reserves instead as a cushion against oil price volatility. Again, I think Governor Cardoso is doing many of these things, and he should be encouraged. The second help every vulnerable household cope with still high inflation. The government is rolling out a large-scale targeted temporary cash transfer program that has already reached between 4 and 5 million households. It should quickly extend this to 10 million households, and perhaps more if necessary. Over the next few years, it should also install a cost-effective safety net to protect its most vulnerable citizens, financing it with some of the savings from the ending of fuel subsidies and exchange rate distortions. The third, it has to make the economy more business ready. And I think that the chairman of NESG actually put out a very clear agenda of what needs to be done there. I'll just summarize. Nigeria's need for jobs is immense. In the next 10 years, more than 12 million young Nigerians, both men and women, will enter the workforce. Generating jobs for them will only be facilitated by the private sector, and it will be facilitated by large-scale domestic and foreign private investment in the non-oil sector. Attracting such investment means boosting the national power grid, improving transportation, improving security, and improving the rules and regulations and the enforcement for private enterprise.